So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'd like to welcome everybody to the webinar. As you can see that our dashboard has changed. We just recently released a new version of the software, which will be making its rounds to everybody if you don't already have it. I'll go over a few of the features of the new home screen and some of the new features we have with the system. We'll also go through the basics of the POS system. We'll also go through query building, saving video clips, downloading the video clips, and answer any questions you might have. So we'll go ahead and get started here. All right, so on the home screen, for anybody with admin privileges, you've always had this Active Users tab, which will show you who's currently logged in the system. But we've added a new piece to this, which allows you to see who's logged in the system, how many times they've logged in the system, their total time logged in the system, and their average amount of time logged in the system. It's really tell you who's been using the system on a regular basis. And you can customize this report to any specific date and time range that you have. Going on to another one, this is one that's been requested by several different users of ours, asking to say, well, how can we see who's doing what in the system? And as you can see here, we can come in, and this will show us all the reviews done by everybody, and then how many reviews have been done by me. And so you can see on the 5th, there were a total of 4 reviews done, and I did 1 of them. And so this will allow you to really keep track and see who's doing a majority of the reviews in your system. And anybody who's logged on and done any reviews, their names will show up in this drop-down. Okay. Like before, we do have the number of cameras that are online, the approximate revenue, the number of revenue centers that are online, and this is all stuff that hasn't changed. So we'll move on to the POS tab. The POS tab is where most everybody is going to spend a majority of their time, and this is a summary view. Now, there's been a lot of questions that have come in as of late as to the queries. And we'll go over some of the basic query building, but I just want to reiterate to everybody, if you have a question about a query, don't hesitate to email me or give me or my team a call. If we don't already have the query built somewhere, we can get it built for you and send back off and show you how to put that in the system. With the query builder, there's multiple ways you can, with summary view, there's multiple ways you can look at your queries. We can, let's find line item voids. Click on the picture, we're going to get a nice little graph. And as you can see now, we've added this purple line that shows up whenever you're going over your graphs, which in this view isn't real difficult to see, but if you stretch it out over 30 days or 60 days, having this little graph makes it easy to identify which day you're on. Now, if we click on a piece of the graph, it will take us to that day and all the line item voids from that day. So we have multiple things we can do from here. We can say we want to look for Lee Eric. We can type in his name up at the top. That's only going to show me his results. Well, now that I have just his results, if I want to extend this search for just Eric Lee, I can say, show me the last 7 days that Eric Lee's done this. And it's going to show me the results. And if I get rid of Eric Lee's name up top, it's going to go back and show me everybody's line item voids. All of the areas up top, we can do this. So if we want to say, show me any menu item voids that were less than -$5. It's now going to return all the results for any voids less than -$5. So we can clear that out and it'll return all the results. Over here, we've got our camera view. Now, if you notice, there's the change most of you should see is that current status on the left-hand side of my mouse. You'll see a black flag, you'll see a red flag, and you'll see a green flag. This is to help keep track of who's looked at things. This will prevent your team from one person coming in and looking at all the voids today, and then tomorrow another person comes in and they look at all the same voids, and it's kind of a waste of time. So once we've looked at a clip, and if we move the mouse away, you'll see that up here a black flag is shown up. This is showing me that it's been reviewed. And if I want to see who reviewed it, I can see that right down here, R. Condi reviewed it, which is me, the date, the time, and how many seconds I spent reviewing that video clip. If I go back and look at the clip again, it's going to add me to the list again. So every person that looks at this clip, it's going to keep track of who's looked at it, how much time they've spent looking at it. Now, if we determine that we want to flag this, that this void looked suspicious to us, we can click on the red, which takes it to a pending status. And now we can write needs review. And we can update this. And now what will happen is it's going to update that flag to red. Now you see our flag changed to red. That'll let us know that we can come back to our home screen. And right here you see pending reviews, 21. These are the number of clips we've actually sent to that pending status. So once we're in here, we can look for the one that I put in just now, which is right here. And I can click on it, and it's going to take me back to that clip. Should bear with me. All right. For whatever reason, it's not going for me. Let me see. We've got a couple different modules on our demo system, so. All right. For whatever reason, it's not clicking over the way it's supposed to right now, and it might be the system hasn't been updated yet because I'm running the latest version of our software. So, but what will happen is you'll click on this and it'll actually bring up that one item that needs to be reviewed, the pending. Also, I don't know if I have any of them here. Try to find any that don't have cameras. We've added actually a new check summary view. If you don't have a camera, it will allow you to see that. Let's see if we can find. All right, so moving forward, back to our summary view. The other way you can look at these voids for the day is by clicking on the words. Click on the word, it's going to take you to the last 24 hours of that query. Once inside, we can always hit the aggregate button. The aggregate button has a few new things we've added to it. We've added day, hour, date. These are nice because it allow you to, select an employee. We see this employee is doing 34% of all the voids on this day. And we can select it. And if we want to, we can aggregate it by hour. We see that all of these voids happened in the 21st hour of the day. If we have multiple dates, we can aggregate it by dates, payment type. We've added a few more choices in here for your aggregation that will help you out. All right, so we have any questions on the summary view so far? All right, if we don't, then we will go ahead and move forward. And we'll go ahead and go into the query builder, which is probably where we get most of our questions coming in. Okay. It's very important to really understand this query builder and the way it works right now. When I refer to everything as being in a single line, I'm referring to this this top line right here where it says cash drawer closed on February 11, 2014 at 9:49 a.m. The terminal was MHK, terminal 169, employee 1258. That is one line. So if we want to look for cash drawer closed on this day by this employee at this revenue center, we can search for that. What we can't search for is, this check right here is $577 start to finish. I can't search for a check that has an egg roll in it and was paid with a MasterCard and has a closed check at the end, because that's 3 items that are on 3 different lines. Now, that's one of those queries that you would call us up on and say, hey, I want to see any checks where an egg roll was purchased and was paid for with a MasterCard, and that's whenever we will go in and we'll make that advanced query for you. So going back to our query builder, there's really a handful of these that you'll use on a regular basis. Basic data, monetary amount, event type identifier, and check number. Those are the 4 most popular ones that you'll use. Event type identifier, if we click the plus symbol here, we'll see it pops up here in our column 3. And under 4, we can hit this drop down. And this has all of the basic event type identifiers that are in the system. So for instance, let's use begin check, because we know everybody has begin checks in their system. You click on this, you'll see the number 2 shows up here. The event type for begin check is number 2, and so that's why it pops up there. So we query begin checks, and you'll see we get all the begin checks for the last 24 hours. And if you look over here, event number is 2. So if you ever want to find the event number you're looking at, look at the far right column and look for event number, and it'll show you the event type you're looking for. Going back into our query builder, if we want to find the begin checks done at a certain revenue center, we simply come over here to revenue center name, and we hit the drop down, we'll select all Zoot, and now we're looking for event type 2, which is begin check at this revenue center. And when I query this, now if we look at the revenue center name, all of them say all Zoot. These are all the begin checks at all Zoot. Now you see we have a Susan Perez. We can always go to aggregate and separate out by Susan Perez, or we can type in Susan Perez. But let's say we want to build a query that we can save on our home page that will look for all begin checks by Susan Perez at all Zoot. We can come back over here. Now we can look for an employee name. We're going to look for Perez Susan. So now we're looking for Perez Susan at all Zoot doing a begin check. We query this, and it's going to pull up just Susan Perez's begin checks at that revenue center. Now, if that's a query that we want to run or have saved, we can go ahead and save this. We can call this Perez begin, and we'll save it. Now we go back into our summary view. We'll see it showed up right here. We can graph it out, and it's going to show us all of Susan Perez's begin check. Now where this is really helpful is I've actually used this to make special queries. I had a employee, a cashier, that would do a menu item void at only a specific register. And so what I did was I set up a query to search for menu item voids by that employee at that terminal. And I saved it. And every day I came in, I ran this query. And what happened was I was able to come in and quickly see every time she'd done it, and each time she did it with theft, it made it really easy to document and track. The other benefit to this is if you have the right privileges, and if not, you can always talk to your manager or give us a call. If this query is one we want to be alerted to, we can go into Setup, and we can go into our POS tab, we go into our Query Manager. We can scroll down and we can find our Perez begin query that we just made. And we can set it up to do real-time alerts and save that. Now if Perez does a new begin check, we should see a little pop-up down here during our webinar that she's done that. So we'll go ahead and save that, and we'll go ahead and go back to our POS. All right, back into our query builder. Let's go ahead and we're going to get rid of these. And we're going to go back to basic data. The reason basic data is so great is it really will allow you to search for anything. So if your IT department adds a new item in for a special event, they add in $2 Coors Lights, you can type in $2 and query it, and any time $2 shows up in the system, it'll find it. For our demo purposes, I always like to use water. And you hit query, and now it's going to show me all the waters that were sold in the last 24 hours. From here, obviously, I can aggregate it. I can come through and say, just show me the ones that were sold at Revenue Center, Zoot. I have a lot of options of things I can do from here. I can spot check, watch the clip and say this one looks good. And if I want to, I can set it to green, which sets a video clip to closed. I'm saying this clip's all good. I update it, move my mouse away, and you'll see I have a green flag on this. So now anybody else who comes in and looks at all these waters sees it's already been reviewed. I've looked at it. I've deemed it good to go. Nobody else has to worry about spending their time watching it. All right. Do we have any questions on the query builder? All right. Any other examples you guys want to go over? I mean, we have event type identifier. We have employee name, employee number, monetary amount. Monetary amount's really good if you're looking for, let's say a total due of less than a certain dollar amount. So if we want to look for total due of less than a certain dollar amount, we would say we want to use event type identifier, and we want to select total due. And then we would select monetary amount, and we say total due is less than 90 cents. We query this, and now we'll get all the results. Any check where the total due was less than 90 cents. All right, looks like we have some questions coming in, so bear with me while we read over them.
How to look up discounts.
All right, so we have a question from John. We have a couple of them. Okay, so for season pass or specific discount cards, John's asking about, it's really going to determine how it's viewed in your system. This is where that basic data tab comes in really handy. Because we can go into our event type identifier and we can select discount, and we can query that. In this system, most of all discounts are airport discounts. So if your system shows up like this, for instance, airport discounts, but you have other discounts as well, we can actually type this in, one airport discount, into our query builder in basic data. How's it spelled? D-I-S-C-T. And because we've spelled it just how it shows up in your system, when we query this, it's going to search for any basic data that contains exactly what I typed in. So if you have a specific season pass and it says season pass discount or SC pass discount, if you type that into basic data, run the query, you should see the results. Once you've determined that you're able to return results, that's when you come back into your query builder, save that query. And now we can name this our airport discount. And we can save it. And then I showed you how to look up discounts as well, John. If we go into our event type identifier, we can go down here and type in discount, or once again basic data and just type in discount. Alrighty. Joanne asked, can you show us the pie chart view? Sure thing. Let's go ahead and we'll go to event type identifier, and let's look at Menu item voided. Let's look at the last 14 days. So now we have 600 records of menu item voids. So we're going to go ahead and aggregate this. We're going to aggregate it by employee. Now you can see we have a total of 39 employees that were returned in our results. We're showing the top 15. We can take this bar and we can say, show us all of them. We're going to see all 39 employees. And now we can see that all the employees that have done menu item voids in the past 14 days, and we see that Maria stands out, so we can click on her piece of the pie. Now it's going to take us into just her menu item voids for that 14 days. Now if we want to, we can aggregate this again and say, show me by date. We can see on the 6th, she did a nice big chunk of voids. On the 30th, she did a chunk of voids. And then the rest of the day, she's only done a few. So out of the past 14 days, she's only done voids on 6 days. So these days we can look in, we can see was there a certain manager working, were these just the days she worked? We can really dive into what she's doing. So we've got someone's hand raised. See what's up? All right, so John's got his hand raised. Let's go ahead and see if we can turn on John's mic. All right, John, you should be on. John, are you there? Can you hear me? All righty. I guess John doesn't have his mic turned on because I can't hear him. Oh, he says he doesn't have a question. Alrighty, so I got a question coming in asking, is it possible to monitor caged transactions, tickets, vouchers, cash payments, markers, etc.? And the answer to that's going to be yes. We do have an integration to counting machines and Tito and also the casino management system. And so basically, yes, anytime a transaction happens, we can record the transaction and also associate it to the video when it happens. Look down here in our bottom right corner, that query we made earlier for begin check by Perez. We had an alert just pop up. Shows up with a bright yellow triangle. Says what the query is. It's letting us know that she began a check. So we can click right here, and it's going to bring us in to when she began a check. See right here, Susan Perez began a check. That's what the alert was for.
Does it log? You have that question?
Yes, it does log. We had a question of, does it log who changed the status of the flags with the date, time, and name? And the question is yes. And what I'll do is I'll show you right here. I'm going to go ahead and set this to black, which shows it's been reviewed. Once it's set to black, I can come back in and I can change this to red. I can update this. Now this is going to show up red. Then I come in, and someone else can come in and they can change it to green. And say, I can update it. Now, when we come back in, you see it turn green, but we can see that I came in at this date and this time, and I reviewed it. I came back in at this date and this time, reviewed it again, and marked it as red, needing to be followed up. And then I came back in on this date and this time, watched it for this amount of time, determined it was a good transaction. Now, all of your people that have their own logins can all log in and they can update this. So it might say that I did the initial review and marked it as needing to be reviewed or pending. somebody else followed up behind me. They reviewed it. They put in some more notes saying, yes, it still needs further review. And then maybe a manager popped in later and says, I've reviewed it. I talked to the supervisor. It's all good. They mark it green. They don't keep track of each step along the way of what's going on with that particular video clip. Hope that answers that question. Did we get all the questions answered? Okay. Let's go ahead and move forward. If you guys have questions, please feel free to add them. If you want to talk to us, just raise your hand and we'll turn on your microphone and you can ask the question. So moving on, another big change to our latest version is the behavior report. It's a lot of good changes to it. As you can see, the basic layout is still pretty much the same. We've given you a little more room to read stuff and add employees in. So we'll start with the middle. You can go in and add individual employees by clicking the plus over here. One of the new features we've added is you can actually search for an employee. So we can type in a name. It'll actually find that person we're looking for. We can do the same thing with revenue centers. All right. John, do you have a question? Go ahead and turn on your microphone. All right, John, your mic's turned on. Do you have a question? All right, I guess not. Good. Put his head down. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and type in Zoot and look for this revenue center. And to add all the employees from this revenue center, I'll click on the picture of the little guy here where it says add all active employees from the revenue center. And you'll see down here it returns all of the employees that have worked at that revenue center. All right. Now over here are all my POS events and all my query events. So I'm going to click on POS events, and I always like to look at adjust check, begin check, discounts, discount voids, menu item voids, reopen check, transaction cancel. And let's say we want to go in here and look for one of our queries, and we want to look at Perez's begin checks. So now we're going to run a query on all these employees for all these POS events and queries we're looking at. And over here we can select our range. Now by default we set this to do a 7-day date range at a 4-interval count. So what this is going to do, this is going to take all the results for each employee and each POS event we selected, group them into 7-day groups, and give us 4 groups of data, which is going to give us 28 days of data. So now that we've done this, we hit this report button over to the right, and it's going to return our results. Now, as you can see, one of the things we've changed the way this view is. We've also changed how the date and the names stay with the data. So as we scroll, we can see here's our first 7-day period, here's our second 7-day period, our third 7-day period, and our fourth 7-day period. And then at the end we have our results. Now if you extend back to our behavior builder, if we extend this out to 5 weeks, we'll now get 5 groups of data. So when we scroll over to the right, this is the averages is where we're going to get our story. So because we've run this on a 7-day grouping, all of these averages are based on 7 days. So at all Zoot begin checks, the average employee does 400 begin checks, 460 begin checks a week. This employee is doing 1,500 a week, so they're way outside the norm. They're more than 3 standard deviations away, so they've been highlighted in red. Okay, so that being said, we can come up here and look at adjust checks and see that the average employee only does about 3 adjust checks per week. But we have these 2 employees that are doing 18 and 17. And this employee is, below average on the average begin checks that they do. So I want to look at this employee. So what I'll do is I'll come over and I'm going to look at adjust checks. So last week, this employee did 19 adjust checks. And I can keep going back and see that, the week before they only did 7. So So I can click on this. It's going to take me right into all those adjust checks. And now I can quickly go ahead and hop in and see if these adjust checks are good. Is this actually the employee that's supposed to be? Are they taking money out of the register? What is going on with these adjust checks? So back into our behavior report, we can also come in and see our discounts. Now, because this employee here has the most begin checks, it only stands to reason they should have the most discounts. But you have a person here that's doing less begin checks but has more discounts on average. These are also two guys I'd probably look into. This query we added at the end, it only deals with Perez, so that's why it returned no results for anybody except Susan Perez. If you have any questions on the behavior report, there's a lot you can do in the behavior report. We can save this. If we want to save this report for all Zoot and all these POS events, we can save this. And we can just call this the Zoot report. Oh, there we go. Sorry, we froze for a second there. So now we've saved this report. When we go in here, we see the Zoot report. When we click this and hit load, it's going to reload all of our people back in and everything we had checked over here on our POS events. Alrighty. Do we have any new questions, Marcus, that popped up? Nope. All right. If you have a question on behavior report, feel free to raise your hand or type in the question, and we will address it. So the last thing we're going to hit on the POS tab is going to be the statistics. The statistics page is great to get a quick glance at what's going on the property. We can look at it by terminal. We can look at it by employee. We can look at it by revenue center. You know, if you have revenue centers that aren't doing much business today and it's halfway through the day and you're paying 4 employees to be there, we can quickly look and see how many menu items they've rung up, how many checks they've done, the amount of revenue they've brought in, and so on. One of the things I like to use this for is if you just want to watch data and you want to pull up several different data strings, I clicked on terminal, and over here where it says ID, I can actually click on these and I can see what's going on with that register right now. Let me find one that has something going on. And we can see here, I can leave this up, and if I have a camera up on another view, I'll be able to see what they're doing live. It's basically the same as bringing it up in our system, but will allow you to, if you have other stuff you're doing on your system, just pull it off to the side, continue on working, and have this up to see what's going on. All right. Let's check and see if we have any more questions. All right. Like before, everything in here is hyperlinked. So if we want to see the menu item voids done at this terminal today, we can click on it. It's going to return us into our view that will show us the details of what happened on that transaction. All right. So if we don't have any more questions on POS, I'm going to go ahead and move into the camera view. If you have questions, please feel free to jump in. So in our camera view, we have multiple ways to add cameras, look at cameras, search for cameras. First way is up top, we can type it in. And it'll give us anything that's returned in your search. We can drag and we can drop it. It's going to bring that camera up. Now if you drag and drop another camera on top of it, it's going to replace that camera with a new camera. If you click the plus, it'll add it in addition to the other camera that you have open. Over here we have a list of all of our cameras. We hit the little drop down, it's going to give us our cameras that are in there. Before we can add these individually, or we have this little number on this one, it's number 4 and a plus next to it. Now click on this plus, it's going to add all the cameras in that group. So in this instance, it's going to add 4 cameras. If I click here, that's going to add another 6 cameras. So we're going to have a grand total of 10 cameras open at once. So if you're ever opening up too many cameras, make sure you hit your tree and select the one you want. Now we can close these cameras individually, or we can close them all at once by clicking on this X down in the bottom right corner. One thing people mistakenly do is they will expand this camera. They want to look at this view. Once this view is open, you'll see the X has disappeared from all the cameras, and you can come down here and try to close them all, and nothing's going to happen. We have to minimize this one back down. All of our X's will reappear, and we're able to close out all the cameras again. All right, so now returning to our camera view. Down here we see we have this little eyeball. This eyeball will take us to live video.
You got a question?
Oh.
Are those cameras synced for fast forward or rewind?
No. The sync feature is strictly just to bring all the cameras together in live play mode. We don't have the ability right now to sync while rewinding, and that's primarily due to the fact that everybody has different DVR systems, and we're actually just pulling from those systems. All right, so moving on the right-hand side, as everybody knows, is all the data is hyperlinked. So simply by clicking on it, it's going to rewind the video for me to that point in time when that check's began. Let's grab a different one. All right, so here we can see we clicked on it, begin check, and we can see this employee starting this transaction. Now, if this is something that I want to save, I can click on items in the upper right-hand corner, and everybody's going to have some type of case manager in here, so like a little piece of paper. We click on this, it's going to ask us to click on the start time and the end time of our video clip. Once we've selected the start and end time, we can move on. Now keep in mind, the time that you archive a single clip isn't going to be able to exceed 30 minutes. So if you want to record an hour of video, we have to break it down to 2 30-minute clips. We'll hit continue. If you have an existing case you want to add this to, we can click on existing, find the case we're looking for, and hit this little arrow, and it's going to dump that video clip into that incident. Or we can create a new case. We can call it demo case. It looks like we have someone's hand that popped up. Give me 1 second. Oh, it looks like Brad raised his hand. All right, Brad, your mic's turned on. Can you hear me? All right, Brad, if you could type in your question, because I guess your microphone isn't working. Oh, looks like Jenny has her hand raised. Go ahead, Jenny.
We had a quick question. When we go to export our video, can we burn our video directly from eConnect, or do we have to burn it from our operating system?
Actually, that's a good question. What we will do, and I'll kind of jump ahead here, is when we go over to our cases, you'll see we have our cases here. And if I click on one of them, it's going to come up with this video clip, and you see right there where it says download. So now I'm able to download the clip, and it's actually going to open up probably Internet Explorer, and you'll see it's going to download the clip. And it's going to ask me, do I want to keep it? I want to keep this clip. Depending on your operating system, it might give you some security measures it wants you to take. Now you can say show in folder. And you can see that right here is this clip. And it's actually an executable folder. So all you have to do is say send to, and if you have a DVD drive, you can just burn it to the DVD. You can move it. It basically just becomes a file you can put anywhere. And while we're on this, we'll go ahead and run it to give you an idea. Now, everybody can see this little lock that's on here. This little lock is the watermark. It verifies that the video is original and hasn't been edited. This is your watermark you use for court. And that's what it's going to look like. And if this video clip didn't have data, if it does have data, the data will show up here. And just like you've seen on everything else with eConnect, as they do stuff on the register, the blue line will move down with the data.
Okay.
All right. All right. We have another question. What's our question, Marcus?
Question regarding discounts. Can we see who was authorizing discounts?
Good question, Brad. I'll have to check into that for you. I believe that that is based on each POS and how they're set up, but I will verify. Get with me later today, and we'll figure that out for your property. All right, so we're going to go back, and then we'll actually be coming back into this case manager. So the first time you're going to get prompted is going to be for the new master incident name. So this is saying, what do we want to call this incident? So we named it demo case, and we can type in C report, or we can actually write the report in here. So if we want to, we can write in all the information about this report. We can select incident type. Is it a procedural error? Is it a test case? Is it theft? We can also set permissions. Who do we want to be able to see this? Do we want to limit who can see it or not? Oops. And then we can go ahead and hit create. Now once we've hit create, now it's going to ask us to name the video clip that we're working on. This is the test clip. And we're going to save this clip. We can start a new clip if we want. We can open an existing case. Now we can download another clip. So now that we've downloaded a clip, we want to go into our case manager, and we'll see that our demo case has showed up right here at the top. Whatever's been updated, the most recent, will be what's going to show up on the top. So we open this up, and we can see that all of our reports showed up here. Who created it, the time it was updated last, if there was a category associated to it, if it's open, closed, and you can see our video clip. Now you can see right here there's no thumbnail. That's because this is actually going to take a minute for it to download and save in the system. While we're in here, I want to go ahead and touch on another change that's been made. As you can see, our case manager has a different layout, so you can actually write out your report and have your report actually show up at the top of the screen. I know before a lot of people were actually using this little plus symbol, which is more for notes or comments. And using that for the report. This is more for a notes feature, so we kept it at the bottom, leaving the main report and the body of the report at the top. Any questions? All right, if we have any questions on that, just feel free to raise your hand or type it in, and we will. Oh, sorry, Sarah. That's Sarah asking the question about Brad. Just logged in as Brad.
Okay.
All right, so I want to go back over to our cameras. There's a couple other features I want to show everybody. Sarah, do you have your hand raised, or Brad, or whoever that is? Nope. Oh, there it is. All right, we'll try again. Your mic's turned on. Are you there? Nope, Brad or Sarah have their hand raised, no mic. We'll go on. All right, another feature we have here that many of you may not know about, if you right mouse click on the video, you'll see it pops up down here with enable zoom and deeper color. Deeper color is nice sometimes depending on your camera to make the video look cleaner. And enable zoom actually will give you this little circle. So we can put the pointer on what we want to see and it'll zoom in for us. And if you have a scroll wheel on your mouse, if you move it forward, it'll zoom in even further. And when you move it back, it'll zoom out. It'll give you the ability to zoom in on live video or archive video. Now, we do have the ability to export video here. I like to tell everybody, if you can, use Case Manager. It's a lot more user-friendly and a lot easier to use, but you can come in and manually set your start point, your end point, and export the video. What's the question?
It's coming from Brad. Can you add the media without video?
All right. So you want to archive just the data, I'm guessing you're saying. And right now, I don't believe you can archive just the data. You'll have to actually export that data in the POS section. Hopefully that answered your question. All right. Another feature we've added, which isn't exactly, I think it is new, is this little picture of a camera. When you click on this, it's actually going to take a picture of the screen, and you'll be able to save it to wherever you'd like. So it's a new feature where we can actually take snapshots right from our system. So it's something we've added on this new release. Going back, we have our archive time. We can come in here, we can select our date and our time that we want to view on video, or we can click on any one of these numbers here. This is a 24-hour clock. It'll take us to the exact hour we're looking for. So we want to see 8 a.m. on the 11th. We click there. It takes us right to the video at 8 a.m. on the 11th. We have our rewind and our fast forward buttons, just like most surveillance systems. You can go up to usually about 32 times speed. We have our pause, play, jump forward 30 seconds, and jump back 30 seconds. And then we have our bar here, which runs on a 1-hour time frame. We can jump to the end, and it'll take us into the next hour. Alrighty. Does anybody else have any other questions? This pretty much covers most of the basics of the eConnect software. I just want to open it up to you guys to really ask any more questions. We can try examples you guys have. I just want to kind of leave the floor open for anybody to ask anything or talk about anything. All right. Well, if nobody else has questions. Oh, wait, there's got one in. Can you show us the blackjack feature? Sure. For those of you that are in the casino industry, we'll go ahead and give you a quick...
You have another question. How long the video is stored?
Video being stored is... If you're talking about video being stored as far as the clips that you've downloaded onto the eConnect server, they're stored until we delete them, or until you delete them. If you're talking about the video as you're watching and going back in time to look at video, that's solely going to depend on your DVR system and how long your retention is set on your video. So some places only set their video retention to 14 days, so if that's as long as your DVR holds your video, that's all the longer we're going to be able to access video. Because all our system does is talk to your DVR and say, we want to look at the video from this date at this time, and we pull it in from your system. All right, so let's go in. Just give me 1 second. All right. So it doesn't look like I've dealt cards recently, but this will at least give you a sneak peek into the blackjack system. Just like POS, I was able to query anytime an ace of spade was dealt, and that's how I got to this video clip. So as we can see, we're keeping track of the running count and the true count, and every card that comes out, and it's keeping track of them. Just like POS, we can scroll down, click on a specific card, and we saw the Jack of Hearts just came out as soon as I clicked on it. This is a trend line. It keeps track of the trend of the shoe, lets you know kind of what the shoe's up to and what's going on with it. And this will allow you to actually keep track of multiple tables and to count on all those tables at the same time. We go back into our casino tab. One of my favorite parts of the countdown is looking at the trend lines. Now, once you have this in place at your property, you're actually going to see every single blackjack table that you have this system on listed here on the left-hand side. I only have one blackjack table here in our test site, so we'll select that table, and we'll select the day we want to see, which was the 29th. And now we can see that there were 2 shoes that were dealt on that day. And right now we're looking at the high-low true count on each one, on the first shoe, and then the second shoe. If we want to see the running count as well, we can highlight that. This will show us all the cards that were dealt in the exact order they were dealt, what the count was, and what time the cards came out. And we can also come to the trend line and say, okay, this count got to a running count of 7, a true count of 4.1. We can click right here, and now it's going to bring up the video right to when the count hit that. And any other questions on blackjack, casino? When will the software be updated at my property? That is something that our support team handles. They handle all the updates. And we just released this new version a few days ago. So they are starting to reach out to all the customers and working on updating the system to the newest version. If you don't hear from them, feel free to call in and ask them, or send them an email and ask when they'll be updated to the latest version. Do we have any other questions? If you'd like a more in-depth demonstration of the casino side of things, the baccarat, the blackjack, ratings, feel free to email me or give me a call. My email address is robert.conde, C-O-N-D-E, at eConnect.tv. Or you can always call the eConnect number, which is 702-523-8786. Extension 5024 will put you in touch with me, and we can take care of that for you. Like I said before, if you want queries made, if you need help doing the system, if you want to do a training online again and just keep it with your property or your people, just feel free to reach out to us. We're here to help you. And any other questions you need, just let us know. So we'll wait another minute or so to see if anybody else has questions. If nobody else has questions, then I want to thank everybody for coming. And hopefully we'll have another webinar set up for the next few months. Any other questions, Marcus?
That's it.
All right, I thank everybody for coming out, and good luck. And talk to you in a few months.
The organizer has ended the session, and this call will be disconnected. Goodbye.